August has always been a dark month, as we've said, where people lose lives. And superstitious people will come and tell you, oh, you're supposed to pray so much, but are some of these deaths preventable, especially when it comes to road accidents? Does it have to be so fatal that every time you get on the road, you have to pray? Every time you are journeying, you have to pray, God, oh God, let me get to wherever I'm going safe. Listen to this. On August 7th, we lost 14 lives due to an air ambulance crash around Moihoko that was going to some place in some place in northern Kenya, going to evacuate a sick person. Landed on a residential area. Then we also had the bus that collided with a train in Naivasha, Kenya Ports Authority bus, I believe. We also have a bus that overturned in Kisumu at around about 25 lives were lost. A matatu and a lorry collided in Korompoi, led to the loss of 7 lives. Then we also had a crash on August 10th along the Kibwezi Kitui Road, 4 deaths. Well, as of now, if we look at the statistics, according to the Kenya government, we've lost 2,933 people to road traffic fatalities from January to August. So 2,900, add another 2,900, that's 3,000. Na bado hatujafika Christmas. We know that December, there are quite a number of road accidents because people are actively moving to their up countries to be with their families and blah, 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 blah. Well, how did our roads become so scary? Who is sacrificing Kenyans? I don't think it's a matter of sacrifice, but we don't need prayers to be safe on our roads. Our safety should be a guarantee. Shouldn't even just be a guarantee. It's a right. We have a right to live. We have a right to feel safe even on our roads. We don't need supernatural beings to ensure that we get to our homes, to wherever we are going to safely. Not to demean the power of prayer, but doesn't have to look like every time that you get on the road and you get to your destination, it is by God. We need regulation and accountability. And actually, as a matter of safety, the government should be in public transport, because when you look at some of these deaths that are happening on our roads, it's because someone just didn't take responsibility. Someone was not accountable. Let's take an example of these nganyas that we look at. We talk about the popular matatu culture, blah, blah, blah. But naturally, even as these people flaunt the rules, they are working against targets. They're given some crazy targets to achieve. And so they are always on the run. They're always on the move to try and make a kill each and every day. While they are motivated at profit, if these nganyas are motivated by profit, do you think that the safety of the passengers is their topmost priority? Your guess is as good as mine. That is not their topmost priority. So it's up to the government to ensure that they come in, especially when it comes to matters national transport. Not because that they are coming to take away the jobs that have been there in the public transport sector, but as a matter of fact, they're supposed to ensure safety, ensure that people are moving and communicating with others in a fast, efficient manner. That's why in developed countries, you'll find that we have a working public transport system, be it the train, be it the buses, We all need something similar in Kenya. But beyond that, let's look at the state of our roads. Sometimes the roads are too poor. We have potholes everywhere. The roads, especially if you're driving at night, they are too dark. And if you have compound eyes like me, it's always so difficult to drive at night, especially. Kama uko na shida ya macho, how is your experience driving in Kenya? But above all, at what point do we take accountability for the things that we do, especially Kenyans? We know Kenyans are always on a rush. We are always overlapping. Our rules in the road, we just don't take them seriously. It's like they are suggestions. Kupitia wrong side, that's nothing that is new. We've seen it. And sometimes it's like, at the end of the day, you don't have to complain because everyone is doing it. So why not? And actually, our indiscipline is the main reason as to why we are seeing all these road carnages. Let's go back and look at the things that people do, especially for someone who likes traveling long distances at night, like me. I prefer driving at night because less traffic. I find it easier to know who is behind you when it's at night. It's better to drive at night personally, if you were to ask me, or even to travel at night. But what is our behavior? Driving under the influence is not something new that unaona huyu ni mtu mlevi chakari, but as Kenyans say, gari inajua nyumbani, dereva ni Yesu. Those are the kind of things that you hear people justifying. But at the end of the day, this is a death trap. And it doesn't just go down to driving under the influence. Let's look at something simple like texting while driving. Did you know that actually texting while driving is more dangerous than driving under the influence of alcohol? Texting while driving is one of the most dangerous forms of distracted driving because it combines 3 types of distraction. 1, you are visually distracted. That means that if your eyes leave the road and you start staring at your phone, you don't have visual sight of where you're headed to. You also have the manual distraction, where you have to do away with your steering wheel to text back mpoa, mpoa lazima mjibu message yake. Then also your cognitive function is distracted, where your mind focuses on the message and not driving. Remember, for you to read that message, you have to concentrate for a while. Here's why it is so dangerous. When you're texting while driving, your reaction time slows dramatically. If we are to compare it to driving under the influence, just give it an example. You're driving at a fairly low speed, 50 kilometers per hour. But if you take your eyes off the road for just 5 seconds while you're driving at 50 kilometers per hour, that is to mean that for the 5 seconds that you're driving, you've driven the length of a football field without looking. Hui! And that, according to the US National Highway Traffic Safety Administration data, it means that you are 23 times more at risk to cause a road accident. Some of the text-related crashes we see are rear-end collisions, lane departures, kugonga pedestrian, stuff like that. And actually, we are even talking about driving. Driving is good. If now you're a cyclist or you're a biker, then the things get worse because you'll be intimidated on the road. Personally, I cycle once in a while. I also drive motorbikes, and I tell you, kwanza riding a motorbike in Kenya, that's like one of the 1,000 ways to die. And the moment you put on a helmet, nobody will care whether you have this super bike or what kind of a bike you are. Even if you're riding the kawaida bikes, za boda boda, nobody wants to know whether you are a boda boda guy or not. They will treat you with uttermost disrespect hapo kwa barabara. You don't deserve the road. Why would you deserve the road when you have 2 wheels? Actually, cyclist life matters. And for people who've been intimidated, who've been bullied off the road, like me, I really advocate for cyclist life because someone will just overtake you at close range. Let's try to put the distance between yourself and a cyclist at least 1.5 meters. If you are overtaking, you don't have to overtake me on close hapo karibu so that I can feel that you have a big vehicle, ama you're driving the biggest truck, a Scania, and you can see that mimi niko kwa bike na ngangana na milima, ni kufinya tu na finya. These are some of the things that we pass through, and I'll get some footages, especially from my cyclist friends. You see how people are intimidated on the road. Our laws and policies need to be improved for us to ensure that our roads are safer. I mean, from the Mishuki laws in 2003, we've not seen any affirmative action that has been taken to ensure safety on public transport. Our road accidents should actually be called a national disaster. You remember we were talking about the mass killings on June 25th last year. How about these deaths that are happening right now? Is it something that we need to talk about? Is it a national disaster? What is it that we are supposed to do? A lot that needs to be done. We need a discipline and accountability system. We don't have a digitized system where someone can be accountable for their mistakes on the road. So tunaweza vunja sheria, because at the end of the day nobody will come to ask you, and it all boils down to corruption. And due to corruption, that 50 bob that you give that cop, it trickles down to each and every one of those accidents. Because if it's an roadworthy vehicle that was authorized, or someone looked the other way just because their hands were oiled with some little money, then you're putting more lives at risk. Also, we don't have regulations that even protect our kids. Like for example, ukienda majuu huwezi beba mtoto hapo mbele on the front seat. They have to be at the rear. They have to be on the kiti ya watoto, the car seat, the baby seat. They need that, because it said that the safety belt is not enough to keep your children safe. But who are we Kenyans? Dereva ni Yesu, gari inajua nyumbani. We don't look at that. We don't like taking care of our cars. We've seen people saying that, hey, my car has a problem with its brakes. I should take it to the mechanic. Need some checkup. But at the end of the day, your gari itaharibika, or someone will just continue ignoring worn out tires. So the braking time inashuka, or even when the roads are wet, and the braking distance has to increase. So unapata tu mtu, they are just still getting you, following you back to back, na kunanyesha. So to some point we have to be accountable to ourselves, accountable to our lives. It's not the Black August, but we need to look at ourselves and wonder, how are we continuing to lose lives? And especially for the government, if I was the president, I would be worried. Why would I be losing 2,900 taxpayers? Na hii deni yote. Alafu mnaua 2,900 taxpayers. Why? Where will I get money, bana? Kasongo, do something. Call it a national disaster. And get these people to be accountable. Because I believe that even the fines that Kenyans can incur due to their blatant ignorance of road traffic laws and regulation would really help us in kumaliza deni ya Kenya.